use the power of melee weapons, alright? You're wanting to use melee. Now, I'm going to tell you straight up at the front, you do not have to have a build like the one I'm using. This is what I use, and I have gotten a little bit of heat in it in the past because of the low intelligence that's on this character. But this is the build that I used on my alternate character when I first started him. Very strong right off the bat. He was very strong in all PvP situations for the most part. And I just want to kind of show a little bit what's going on. So this is the Dragon Knight build that we originally showed a while back. Started with 5 strength, 4.5 con, 1 dexterity, and then 1.5 intelligence. Now, you can go with max brawling or max melee, does not matter here, but it's going to take you at least 12 hours or so to finish leveling the other skill. And melee does level faster, so if you're interested in getting both of those maxed out at the very beginning, I would probably just go ahead and max brawling and then finish leveling up melee after. Con, we want as much movement speed as possible, and then we did medium endurance. Our character does carry a lot of weight on him on general, so the endurance levels up pretty quickly. But with a melee character, you need movement speed. Nothing's going to help you more than movement speed because you got to close the distance and you got to be able to, go in and out of cover and flank and all that stuff. Now, dexterity is low. On this character, we did driving and motorcycling. If you don't have any interest in thievery or anything like that, that's what I would suggest for this. If you do want to lockpick some things, you can get, medium thievery relatively quickly. And, at medium thievery, you can pick some advanced locks. And if you're a good enough lock picker, you should be able to level up with advanced locks from there if you really want to. But for PvE and anything sort of kill boxes and stuff, medium thievery can get the job done. And although this character is PvP orientated, I did not exactly make him to be a base raider to go in and lockpick doors. But if the case happens, I would probably just go ahead and demolition, use bombs and explosives and things to get in. 1.5 intelligence. This is mainly because 1 intelligence really bugged me. It really bothered me that the bar would get stuck in the middle. But I also get some benefits here because I can get medium awareness, which for the most part in a bunker, I've been able to hear pretty much throughout the bunker with medium awareness. Anyone that's walking around or looting, I've been able to hear without really much difficulty. All right. Sniping skill and stuff could be debatable to use at the beginning of the game, not necessarily because you want to use it, but because the hold breath can be very good if you don't have any rifle skill or anything at the beginning. And I would advise using, some sort of ranged weapon with your melee, even if you just want to be a melee pureless. It's good for emergencies and it's good to soften your targets. Because when you're attacking, it usually takes you about 4 to 5 hits, at least with this medieval sword, to kill an armored puppet. So you're going to want something to kind of soften up some targets if you're getting to a really serious PvP situation. I usually rock a bow. Okay, a bow, improvised pistol, a spear, and a sword. There is a few reasons to this. One, the bow is silent and can be used over a really good range, which is very good. And I would recommend being good at these bow skills. Second thing is the pistol does very good damage, and although I cannot craft the ammo because I do not have access to advanced engineering, you can still buy the ammunition for this gun from the trader, and armor piercing is going to be way better anyway, so I go ahead and just buy the armor piercing rounds. They're like 700 or so for about 30 rounds. I keep about 5 on my character at most times, and the pistol is used for emergencies. This thing does not jam, it does not break. Very good all-around pistol. And you might not think that it fits with the Dragon Knight build, but I base it on medieval knights and stuff. They had firearms back in the day. Shotguns and these improvised pistols, I think, are fine to use for that. Now, the bow, definitely, when you first start off, you can use a 100-pound bow, but you can't really hold it or anything. But this will level up very, very quickly. When it comes to firearms, When it's close range, you could definitely still use full automatic. When you actually go and you're using single fire, having 5 strength, even though it's not necessary in the build, if you just want to be pure melee, you can level up your strength later. You're not really going to be increasing your damage too much going up to 5 from 3, but it does increase your throw range. It does increase your melee damage a little bit. Um, but what 5 strength does for you at the beginning of the game is that it's lowering the vertical recoil on rifles. So if you use snipers, which is still fine, even with like 1 strength, you can use a sniper rifle. All that stuff's perfectly fine. But with like a M16 or anything like that, being able to have that vertical recoil a lot less in single fire helps you a very lot in like medium to long range fights. And close range, fully automatic is going to be fine. You're going to have that much hard of a time. It's the side to side recoil that gets you with that. And on most guns that I've seen, it's pulling up and then to the left and then to the right. So once you get used to, pulling right and then pulling left, I think you'll be fine. When it comes to aiming, that's just going to take a little bit of practice. The same sort of thing with bow skill. It's going to take you a little bit of practice to get used to using the bow. But once you get good with the bow, you can actually, bob in and out of cover and all that. So there's a few different things. There's a few different weapons that you could use. The katana, sledgehammers, all of that. What I will tell you is that the katana is a very good weapon. It is quite rare, but it's going to be better than the medieval sword and stuff. If you're going to use that, that's fine. You can use sledgehammers and things. They're very good for knocking people down. I wouldn't really use it in a PvP situation, honestly. It's good. 1v1, it's good, but anything else, I just don't think it's worth it. The attack speed is too low to really stop any assault rifle users very well. And you're not 100% guaranteed always to knock somebody down, which is kind of, you know, an important thing that I think that everyone should kind of think about. Even though all the two-handed weapons are very powerful, the katana and the medieval sword are my top picks for when I end up going fights. Now you might be thinking, why do you use the spear? Well, the spear is mainly because, one, I can store it in my backpack, I can drop it, I can turn it into a small campfire or whatever. It has a lot of versatility. You can throw it, but when it comes to fighting players, if the player is very mobile, you need the range of the spear to be able to run them down and kill them, okay? When you're chasing somebody with a sword, you're not going to be able to just get the range to finish them off. It's very difficult sometimes. So I prefer to have a spear on me for those situations, most definitely. The other thing is that when you're in groups, so if you have multiple people that are using melee, and then you go and you try to use your swords on it, it is possible to just hit the target, but it's likely that you're going to hit each other, and that can be a lot of damage, whereas a spear, you don't really have that problem. Everything's directly on target. And it also means that if all of y'all want to throw your spears at somebody, then you can. It's also very good to help soften somebody up. So you toss your spear at them, and then you swap to your sword, and you go in straight for the attack. That's pretty good. You can also, if it's in your backpack or something and you have it set for your throwing weapon, then you can pull it out as a throwing weapon and then hit your aim skill and then put it into your hands. So it's very quick to put that into your hand. So very versatile overall. Doesn't do as much damage as a sword. Sword can do like 36, 37, whatever, and it'll bleed. And then the spear is going to be doing like 24, 22, something like that. So not the most powerful weapon, but very versatile weapon. It's also good for hunting, anything like that, in case you don't have a bow or anything with you. Now, when we're looking for what are the benefits to an item, it's good to kind of think about what is unique to that item or what is unique to that thing that you're trying to do. This is for pretty much almost every game. Things like League of Legends and stuff where you have different champions, or like the Elden Ring where you have different builds and weapon types and all that stuff. What are the benefits of melee compared to most other things? Is the real question. So It's a good combo for one. Second one is that it pretty much makes you a danger no matter what, even if you are just a naked running around. If you have some brass knuckles or some sort of melee weapon, you can get the jump on somebody and kill them pretty quickly. Um, the major benefit for melee comes with, you probably won't believe it, but it comes with raids. Um, Raids, PvP, and also narrow corridors. So if you're like in a bunker and you're holding a door or something for your team, you can actually blockade the door and not allow them to come in. That is very interesting and useful skill to have. You can also bump out a lot of damage very quickly, even though it is a moderate range. But one of the major features when it comes to a sword compared to everything else, you can sort of do this with your fist, but it isn't nearly as effective, is that melee weapons can damage items. And this is a big one compared to everything else, okay? So, one, why this is kind of good for raids in the first place is that if your base is made properly, you should be able to get a melee character over a wall or whatever and get somewhat close to the enemy. If they have a lockpicker or something like that, trying to lockpick a door, then you should be able to get up close to them. Lockpickers are not able to defend themselves, and their squad, generally, they don't like being very close together because it makes them vulnerable to explosives. But if they're not close enough together to where they can guard their lockpicker, then that is a very, very easy prime target for you. And when it comes to raids, pretty much every raid that I've seen on all the servers or anything like that, it has come down to basically time. Uh, the raids do not end unless you can make the enemy run out of supplies. That's basically how it works, because we've basically held bases and completely wiped the raiders 10 plus times, and they just keep coming, and it lasts 8 to 10 hours, and nobody has time for that. And so, if you don't get rid of their supplies, then the raid is not going to end, and melee weapons make this a lot easier. Now, one has to do with vehicles. So, a lot of raiders will end up using a vehicle to bring supplies with them if they don't prepare and put stuff in a bunch of different areas and all that, right? So, if you happen to want to try and steal the car or at least keep them from running away with your loot, all you got to do is pop the tire. Okay. I think I popped that one. No. Alright. So you can pop the tires, and then they're not really going to be able to simply drive away. Now, if your driving skill is high enough, mine's on basic right now, you can drive this vehicle, but you can't really turn very well. So it becomes a lot more of a hassle. As you can tell. Now, that isn't necessarily going to fix your problem, but it does mean that you're giving the enemy a problem to deal with. And this is part of the reason why I kind of want to do a video over base raiding tips and also base defense tips. I probably won't do anything that's like super game breaking. I don't want to like make a bunch of exploits. I could probably think of one that like a solo player could use, which would be very nice to help versus base raiding, or if you found the right location. But when it comes to these vehicles, if you don't put pressure on your attackers in a raid, then they're going to eventually break in. You got to be able to pressure them, make them think something else is going on, or make them worry that somebody's out in the woods, something like that. So coming back and it, like, say that you lost everything, they busted in, they destroyed everything, whatever. How much loot you have in your base? Personally, me, I use a lot of old style weapons, so like the swords and the bows and everything. You got to calculate the value of your gear. Okay, so if they bring this pickup truck over here, these things cost like 45,000 or something at the trading post. So if you can manage to cripple this where they can't get it away, then they're going to have to try and repair it and drive off. If they try to drive off without this, it might take them a while to get away from where they were. And you're going to be able to find them, hunt them down, kill them, and then try to take their vehicle, or at least raid their vehicle. Now, on the off chance that you can't necessarily do that, I think I dropped my sword over here. Let's get another one. Okay. On the off chance that you can't do that, you can still damage their vehicle. Now, this will take a little bit of time, but if they do stash their raiding supplies in the vehicle, or, if you're not worried about necessarily selling the car, then you can actually destroy the vehicle, and it will destroy the goods that are inside, and it's going to allow you to kind of hunt them down on foot while they're trying to run away, and maybe lead you back to their base. And this is why, I might be in the minority here, but I believe that the survival skill is a base rating skill as well. I don't think a lot of people realize that, but I'm very confident that the survival skill in intelligence is also a base rating skill if you use it properly. But if we go and look, this truck is now at 82% HP. So you can tell it isn't going to take us super long to take this vehicle out. And you don't have to deal with large, loud gunshots or anything. It is possible that you could shoot it with a bow, but melee just seems quicker to me. And if someone tries to come back for loot and that thing's destroyed, then that's a big one. Now, the other thing is that if your base is built properly, so let's say that we had, something like this, and then we had a door. And they are lockpicking this door. And let's just do something really simple, right? I'm in single player, so it allows me to build all over. Alright, so you probably don't want to jump over the wall when it's this tall. But say they have a lockpicker on that door. A lot of lockpickers like to lay down. Some of them just kind of do their own thing. But the main thing is that, do you think those people are going to have time to kill you before you get to them? It is very possible that they could shoot you. Hopefully you have teammates. But if you manage to come down here and jump behind that lockpicker, and say their enemy team has weapons, so they have guns or whatever, and they try to gun you down, you could run around to the back side of them or whatever and use him for cover. There is friendly fire. This is also a big thing when it comes to close quarters like bunkers. There could be a team of 4 and you rush into the middle of them and they crossfire each other, which puts a lot of chaos that your team can use as an opportunity to win a fight. Because if one of those people even clips one of their teammates, there's a whole bunch of, discussions and stuff over the mic. It's a big thing. All right. So you come over here and you kill their lockpicker because it's going to take you a couple hits. At the bare minimum, even if you do not kill him, he's taking 2 or 3 hits from this sword. It's doing 35 damage a piece plus a, C3 bleed, probably. So he's going to be bleeding out and halfway dead and probably not going to be able to lockpick anymore. So you're buying more time, and buying more time, right? And, at the bare minimum, there's a lot of tips that I could give, but you can add more locks onto the doors and stuff. You can build barricades at the door. There's a lot of things that you could do to try and keep people out of this base. Right? So, the next point is that during a raid, something I see very, very often is that players are too scared to leave the base to claim the fame off of the kills because it will get them killed, right? But that's a problem because the base raiders come back and claim the fame off the bodies, and then they don't run out of fame. And the more that you kill them, the faster their timer, or the longer their timer takes to reset for them to come back. But I've seen people who fully wiped teams 10 times and never leave the base, even though they have like a very long time to actually, and then the people go and get their guns back and stuff. And this is where everything's coming into play. Now, if your base is set up properly and you are very good at defending it, you can turn a base raid into a loot run. So you can basically bait them into bringing you loot gear or guns or whatever, and you can take that and sell it. Me, I use a lot of primal weapons, spears, swords, bows, and so things like an M4 or something where I can go to the trader and sell it for, 7, 12,000, however much, and then I can go and buy 2, 3 bows with it, or I can go and just stash that money. You got to understand, like if there's a squad of 4 that comes and they all bring guns that are worth like 10,000, and then you go sell those guns, you have enough to buy a pickup truck now off of that. Now imagine if they have 2 or 3 kits a piece and they keep trying to raid you and you kill them over and over. All right. Now the thing is also you don't necessarily need to have a full HP gun to get decent money off of it. So you can have a 14% M4 and still sell it for $600-700 at the trader, and not even really need that much player pop on the server, and you can get even better prices than that. So, but when we look at this backpack, right? So we killed a lockpicker. This backpack's on the ground, so you don't want to just attack his body. You want to claim the kill, and you want to search it so that all of his loot falls on the ground. And then when his loot falls on the ground, you take your sword or whatever you want, and 3 hits, that bag is gone. All of those raiding supplies are gone. And you want to do this with everything that you can do. This is the one unique thing with melee weapons compared to other things, is that you can damage these items on the ground and you want them gone quickly. So even if you get, a 10-second opportunity, even if they have a sniper out in the woods, you can possibly jump over the wall and melee attack their gear and kill their whole base raid. Because if they had all their lockpicks and stuff on them there, if they had all their, everything else, then it's pretty much done at that point. Now, the other thing is that a lot of them come back and get their gun and reuse it if they think it's safe to. So if you have a melee weapon, and this is partly one of the biggest things with melee weapons, is that if they come back naked, they're not getting their stuff. All right? Whereas, like, if they come back naked and you have a gun, you're slowly wasting your ammo. I've seen a lot of base raids where, you defend it very well and then you run out of ammo, which is a big deal, and also why I like bows. For base defense, preferably. I prefer rifles for attacking bases, and I prefer bows for defending bases. But if they come back as a naked, they can't get through you. There's no way they're going to get through you, right? Or you could take their guns and stash them and use them yourself. Or if you think that you don't really have time for that, you come up. Oop. And you hit it. So I hit that twice. So with one hit, it can bring an M4 down to 59%, which is enough for it to jam. And then with 2 hits, this is down to 17%, which probably going to jam. And so now you can start to see how you can use the melee weapons when it comes to combat, especially in bunkers or close kit-knit corridors, or if you have gates and things in your base. So if you have this and say you have an airlock, so you had 2 doors, and so they lockpick the first door and they go in here and they're starting to lockpick the second door. This right here is a kill box. As soon as you jump down, you can close the door or whatever, and they're stuck right here in this tiny gap with you and your melee weapon. And if there's 4 of them or 2 of them or even 1 of them here, he is dead. And then all you got to do is reposition beside the door or wherever you want, and now they can't come in this doorway. And it gives your team time to kind of come and get the loot off of the lockpicker, or come and try and reseal this door, because they could pass you, say, a lock through this hole or whatever, and then you could relock the door, and that's how you can slowly press the attackers out of the base, because every time this lockpicker comes, he isn't just going to bring one screwdriver, most likely, right? He's going to have a decent little bit of screwdrivers and lockpicks and stuff on him. So every time that you can take that away, it's going to be a big deal. So, and then when it comes to the katana, this is also a reason why the katana is really good. Go ahead and throw the spear, I guess. All right. So you can see that this melee weapon over here is 100%, instantly to 0. So the katana is really good because it does a lot of damage. It can instantly zero out weapons. And when you are in a fight with a player, especially one with an automatic rifle, if you can get in distance with your melee weapon, don't be aiming for the head. Aim for their gun. If you can hit 1 or 2 hits on that thing, it's going to jam, and then they're dead. There's no way. So as soon as you land a hit on that gun, it's probably going to jam. They might get, 2, 3 rounds off, but you're probably still going to be standing. All right. And then it's just a battle of fists. Now, another big one is that melee weapons can stun lock, so the knockdown with the big weapons is a pretty important one, but you can also stun lock puppets. So when it comes to bunkers or whatever else, it's also a good reason to carry a spear in case you run into, say, a suicide puppet. You can throw the spear instead of throwing your main melee weapon. But when it comes to bunkers or anything like this, these armored puppets, I think like a couple days ago, I fought, well, basically we're raiding a bunker, and then a bunch of new players were coming to kind of see what was going on. We're showing them around, and they opened up all the bunker doors, and then the puppets respawned. And so there was 5 or 6 of these armored puppets that swarmed me, and I was able to fight them off with this. It takes about 5 hits to kill one, but it does stun lock them from hitting you, and even though it does slowly burn out your stamina, it takes a little bit. And then with as much HP as I have, if you block, you're going to be able to block quite a bit of damage and regen your stamina before going in for another thing. So I was able to fight off all those puppets by myself with melee. Now, you can do that with a gun, but it's also possible that your gun's going to take damage. It could jam. There's a lot of variability there, and I don't want to rely on a little bit of RNG. That's also why I would kind of lean towards using improvised pistols and improvised shotguns. They're extremely cheap to make. You can buy the materials if you want and build like a pistol for 300 bucks. All right. But they don't jam and they don't break. So as long as you're alive, that thing's going to work. And you're always going to know it's going to shoot. Anything else? Like, the only thing that they could ever do to that gun is make it to where the ammunition would actually misfire. But if you're using good ammunition, then there's no real reason to do that. So partially why I would say if you're going to make crafted ammo, I would probably only make the 50 cal ammo because it does a lot of damage. But with this character, for instance, I would make shotgun ammo because shotgun ammo can be useful for raids and useful for base defense. And then also, I just buy the 50 cal ammo at the trader because it's like 700 bucks for 30 rounds. I carry 5 or so rounds on me for emergencies, and I'm pretty happy with that. All right, you can carry more, but it's not really necessary. If you land one shot with an improvised pistol on a target, they're probably within a hit or two of dying, and you just bleed them out. So there's nothing really major to do with that. Now, I won't really go too much into all of the things with the kind of primal base defense stuff, but being able to disable or destroy supplies is a really big deal. Being able to destroy containers, anything like that, like locked chests that you can find for the enemy, big deal. You got to be able to get rid of those supplies. And their gear, guns, everything else, and you're able to claim fame, you're able to hold choke points, you're able to pressure them to not wanting to come in. Because why would 1 or 2 players want to rush a dude with a sword that they know can kill them in like 3 hits? Right? If they come through this doorway and they know I can kill them in a couple hits. So you can do good damage to them. So these two puppets, I don't have walls right here, but basically, if they come through a tight corridor like this, I don't know why the aiming is all messed up. Aiming got all messed up there. I got that automatic aim or whatever on single player apparently. I don't really like that. But essentially, if they come in here and it's one person and you hit 2 or 3 shots on them, they're pretty much dead. And then if any more come in there, they're going to be bottlenecked and they're not going to be able to move around and they're going to shoot each other in the back because everyone uses guns. Alright? So it is possible that they could shoot you, but it is very probable that they'll end up shooting their ally because none of them train room clearing in video games. Alright, and even if you're able to land 1 or 2 hits on one of those guns, that gun is pretty much useless. They're going to have to waste money getting a gun repair kit or something to repair that weapon, and that's just inconvenient. Alright, and personally, I don't like trusting a weapon that I know can be damaged and not operate in 10 seconds. Like, I'm pretty sure anyone in modern military, like if the M4 was guaranteed after like 30 minutes to just like be fried and jam, I don't think anyone would use it. All right, you need consistency, which is why I like the improvised weapon. Oh shoot. Shoot fire. So crossfire is a very big one. Killing the lockpickers is a very big one. Also, being able to sneak up because we still have access to max stealth, which is important. Now, I don't really care about the awareness so much because I'm not really doing a bunch of long-range sniping. But also, camouflage is only really good for one shot. So if you are able to locate the area where a sniper is, and a lot of them, it's a risk for them to stay still. But if they do, and you did see them, they're going to get domed. So a lot of them have a bad habit of moving instead of using the camo, which is fine. But the thing is that you should be able to locate at least the direction that somebody's shooting at you and then be able to kind of cover that up a little bit. Now, holding back the lower gear enemies is also a very big one. But also a big one is smoke grenades. So, or fires. You can use fires for a similar effect. So, if someone's raiding a base, this is also particular, like a few things that are very good about the cold biome. There's a few different things that happen in the cold biome that don't really happen anywhere else. So you could, for instance, have a few fires by your base, right? Now, they're not necessarily a base defense. These will keep people warm. They can also make them very hot and burn up. So these can be useful for keeping, like, in the cold, not so much, but like if you're down in the hot biome and you do this, it can definitely make somebody super hot and they have to take their clothes off or to put the fire out. Alright, and it could possibly go through walls, but, and also walking through here, you'll take a little bit of damage, but it's only like 5 damage. It's not too much. But what these are good for is that they make smoke. So if there's a sniper up on a hilltop or something up there, and you start these, they emit smoke, which puts a little bit of cover. But the smoke grenade, you're able to smoke out an area, smoke out a gate or whatever, and someone with a melee can come out and deal with all these weapons and stuff. Alright, and it's not going to take very long at all, and then they can run back inside before the smoke dissipates. Now, I'm trying to think of a couple more things. I can't really think of it off of my head. I mean, melee weapons are pretty cost effective. They're not very difficult to find. You can find them anywhere. They deal a lot of damage. They have a lot of versatility. So I don't really think you're going to have any problems necessarily with melee. You can't really go super wrong with melee. But very cost effective, I think. You know, you can go buy a sword or an axe, or you can go buy like a hatchet for 1,200 bucks or whatever at the trader. You know, and then if you manage to kill somebody with a rifle or whatever, you sell that for 7 grand, you 7 extra profit. All right. It doesn't require ammo. Repairing it can just use like a basic toolbox or like a grindstone. So it's not very hard to actually go and repair. It doesn't cost a lot for the repair kits because, weapon repair kits are expensive, but, swords and bows and things, none of that really costs very much. If you lose it, you don't necessarily care. It's a melee weapon. You can find another one pretty quick, and they're always going to be around and useful. You can also, carry a lot of them in your backpack and throw them or whatever you want to do. So all that's very nice. And just using it, I could probably go over the bows, pistols, and spears, but we probably went over time pretty much as we want to go. So there's a lot of kind of tactics you can use, but this is just a general summary on kind of if you're wanting to use melee, what you might be thinking about when you're using these, and what kind of situations you'll have for like PvP and stuff like that. So if you have any more advice for people that want to use melee, you can just put that down in any of the comment stuff below or whatever. I'll probably just post the video and not really type everything out because I'm a little uh, stacked for time right now. I got a lot of stuff on my plate, so I can't really sit here very much longer. But best of luck to you. Try the dragonknight build if you want. I know that the 1.5 intelligence can seem scary, but I can explain real quick why I don't necessarily think you need max intelligence. Eventually, if they ever add intelligence scaling in the game, I probably will start with this build in general. But if we just go ahead and look at this real quick, awareness at medium is pretty good in most situations. I mean, I've been able to hear everyone just fine with medium awareness. Max awareness hasn't really helped me a whole lot more than medium. Now, camo wise, like deactivating camo, I don't think that's going to be the biggest thing. Yeah, they're going to be able to sneak up on you, or you're going to be able to run up on them, but that's just something that you have to deal with, all right? And once they fire once, if you got your eyes on them, don't take your eyes off of them. You'll be fine. Sniping, not necessarily the most important skill. Medium sniping is going to be okay for holding your breath and getting ranges. Not the biggest thing. Camouflage, yes, you can go stealth, but you can still get medium camouflage and activate it, at a farther distance than what max camouflage would be. But with a melee build, or even with bows and things, or even with guns, a lot of times once you shoot once, then the fight's on, and you can't really just sit there anymore. Unless it works differently with bows. I have not got to get that test done yet. I joined a clan on multiplayer, but then every time I join a clan, the whole team disappears, and I can never get anything done. So uh, I want to test camo with the bow just to see if there's any effects. Because every video I've ever seen has the bow, or has guns and camo together. None of them use the bow. The bow doesn't use much noise. Engineering-wise, the large hut doesn't really give any more advantage than a medium hut, besides the fact that it's kind of a combination of a small and medium hut together, and you get more elevation out of it. So base-wise, if you're building the base from the ground up, I personally do like the large cabin for elevation, to put layers of elevation all the way up into the center of your base. I think that's very good, but I don't necessarily think it's needed. And then craftable ammos, especially if you're a melee or a kind of primal character, none of these ammos matter very much. You can find these 308s and all that. You can find them just fine. If you're not using guns all the time, this isn't going to be a big deal. And then you can always raid somebody's base and get their ammunition if you really need to. But these basic ammos are really, really fine. The 12 gauge cartridge and the 50 cal ammo is about the only thing that I craft out of any of these anyway, because why would I craft a bullet that does less damage, you know? But you'll get access to both of these improvised gun crafts. You'll get access to all of these other crafts that you need here, um, metal arrow tips and all of that. So you don't really need advanced in these skills at all. Not anything that I have seen that would require advanced in those skills. So unless you want cement walls, but I mean, you can find somebody to help you build cement walls. It's not going to be that big of a deal. But I would also note that if you're wearing a knight helmet and things, that sometimes having a little metal on your base helps you blend in a lot better because you're kind of shiny. So having some shiny stuff around helps. Other than that, feel free to try this out. Say anything you want in the comments, and I'll probably be around to answer some of that stuff if I can.